189 goals and 89 assists in just 299 games. Those aren't great numbers. They aren't even elite numbers. Those are all-time, era-defining numbers. Mo Salah is the man who dragged Liverpool from the wilderness back to the summit of English and European football. A man who delivered the Champions League, the European Super Cup, the Club World Cup, and ended Liverpool's 30-year wait for the Premier League. And then, just when everyone had written them off in the post-Klopp era, Salah produced 29 goals and 18 assists to single-handedly take Liverpool to their second Premier League title. Look, I understand Ousmane Dembele winning the Ballon d'Or with PSG's treble, but how on earth did Lamine Yamal and Vitinha finish ahead of Salah when he had 57 goal contributions in 52 games? I don't think I'm ever going to understand the Ballon d'Or voting process. As a diehard United fan my whole life, it's been horrible watching him bag goals and assists left and right, especially because he always plays well against us. But even I have to admit that he's not just one of the best players of this era, he is an all-time Premier League legend. But here is the truly insane part. The thing that nobody seems to be talking about. Right now, in 2025, a 26-year-old Cameroonian international is putting up the same numbers, showing the same work rate, and producing the same match-winning impact as Prime Mohamed Salah. And it's not just about the eye test. The underlying numbers are also eerily similar. So today, we're here to talk about why Bryan Mbeumo is playing like one of the best right wingers in Premier League history and why absolutely nobody has realized it yet. But before we get into it, I just wanted to let you guys know that we have started memberships on the channel. It's a great way to show your support, and in return, you get exclusive perks like member-only videos. So please check it out on the channel homepage. With 5 goals and 1 assist in 11 games, Bryan Mbeumo is quickly becoming Man United's best player. In fact, he's hit the ground running so quickly that reports out of Carrington are that Bruno's lower back pain has disappeared from not having to carry this team so much. But here's the thing. Before Mbeumo became a fan favorite at Brentford, before he became our star under Ruben Amorim, he was one of the most overlooked, most misunderstood, and most underappreciated players in the entire league. And to understand why his rise feels so sudden, you need to understand where he came from. Born in Avallon, France, with a population of just over 6,000, Mbeumo wasn't a highly scouted academy prodigy. He didn't come from PSG's conveyor belt. He didn't start his career in some elite youth setup. The scouting team at French club Troyes spotted him playing for his local side and invited him to a trial when he was just 14 years old. He had to go live 2 hours away from home at this young age, and even though things were difficult, he showed signs of the dogged resilience that we're seeing today. A close friend of his recalls how Mbeumo would frequently call his mother in tears, wanting to go back home, but he refused to crack mentally and he had the strength to push through. He then had to graft his way to the top at Troyes, going from the youth team to signing his first professional contract at the age of 18, just after he scored twice in the 2018 Gambardella Youth Cup final at the largest stadium in France. And just 1 year after he did that, Brentford paid €6.5 million to sign their second most expensive player at the time, and here's what Thomas Frank had to say about him. He's quick, he's direct, he can beat people attacking one-on-one, and he can score goals. It's also great that he works unbelievably hard off the ball. In 2 seasons of championship football, Mbeumo produced 23 goals and 18 assists to get Brentford promoted to the Premier League. And in 4 seasons of Premier League football, Mbeumo didn't just become their best player, he became their hardest worker, their most humble star boy, and a coach's dream. And despite last season being his breakthrough season with 20 goals and 8 assists, I don't think people appreciate that across his whole Premier League career for Brentford, he has more than 1 goal contribution every 2 games. Even if you take out last year's great numbers, he's giving you a goal or an assist every 2.2 games while playing anywhere across the front line for an underdog team like Brentford. So his career coming up to United went under the radar because he didn't showboat or chase headlines. He just focused on putting in the work. And that humility, that willingness to outwork everyone without demanding the spotlight is exactly the kind of mentality United's best players should have. Everything we've discussed so far, the graft, the resilience, the character, and the rise, none of that explains why he suddenly looks like Prime Mo Salah. To understand that, we have to look at the underlying numbers from last season. Here is a side-by-side comparison between Mo Salah and Bryan Mbeumo based on their respective 24-25 Premier League seasons. At first glance, Mbeumo doesn't stand out for any statistic compared to Salah except for non-penalty goals per 90 minutes. So it seems like on one side you have a player that was probably robbed of a Ballon d'Or, and on another side you see a decent Premier League winger that's playing for a side that finished 10th in the league. But if we take a deeper look into the underlying numbers, we see that the profiles start matching a lot closer. With 0.77 goals per 90, Salah was in the 99th percentile compared to Premier League wingers and attacking midfielders. And Mbeumo is just behind him in the 98th percentile with 0.53 per 90. While Mbeumo doesn't quite have the assists per 90 that Salah did, in terms of both goals and assists combined, he's in the 95th percentile to Salah's 99th percentile. And even though he didn't get on the end of as many progressive passes as Salah, you can see that his progressive dribbling and passing profile is very similar to that of Salah. Next, we look at his shooting stats, and this is where the comparison is truly mind-boggling. Mbeumo scored 31% fewer goals than Salah while taking 36% fewer shots per 90 minutes, which means Mbeumo was 12% better than Salah at converting his shots into goals. To put that into perspective, if both Salah and Mbeumo took 100 shots last season, Salah would score 17 goals and Mbeumo would score 19, despite being in a far weaker team that creates far worse chances for him. The other interesting thing here is that Mbeumo had a higher percentage of his shots on target while shooting from much further out on average. To put this into perspective, the goal is 18 yards away from the edge of the box. Mo Salah was taking his shots from here, and Mbeumo was taking his shots from here. I know this may not seem like a big difference, but you imagine taking 100 shots from the edge of the box and scoring 2 more goals than Mo Salah, who's doing it from further inside in the box. You know how insanely good you have to be at finishing your chances to achieve this? Anyways, moving on, we take a look at arguably the biggest reason that Man United wanted Mbeumo so bad this summer. Mo Salah overperformed his XG by 0.1 per 90, which puts him in the 86th percentile for wingers and attacking midfielders last season. But Bryan Mbeumo overperformed his XG by twice as much as Salah, putting him in the 98th percentile for this metric. So this is a player that will put the ball in the back of the net with as much of a sniff of a goal-scoring chance. For those of you guys that don't understand what this means, if we put Mbeumo in the Liverpool team last season and gave him the same XG that Salah had, he would have scored 42 goals. That's 6 more than Haaland's record-breaking 36, 10 more than Salah's iconic 32-goal debut season, and it would have been the greatest scoring season in Premier League history. So when I say Bryan Mbeumo is playing like Prime Mohamed Salah, I'm not exaggerating. If anything, I'm underselling it. And it doesn't stop there. If we take a look at the underlying chance creation numbers, Salah had expected assists of 0.24 per 90, which represents the cumulative quality of chances that he was creating each game, and Mbeumo is just above him at 0.25 per 90. Now here's the crazy thing. Salah got 18 assists from 9.54 expected assists, and Mbeumo got 8 assists from 9.04 expected assists. So if Mbeumo was playing with Luis Diaz, Cody Gakpo, Diogo Jota, Szoboszlai, and McAllister, who were scoring the chances that he was assisting instead of the Brentford team that he was playing with, he would have ended up with 17 assists instead of 8 last year. So we're looking at a guy that could have had 42 goals and 17 assists last year if he played in a title-winning team like Liverpool instead of playing for a team that finished in 10th. that's not just Salah-level output, that's in the territory of prime Messi and prime Ronaldo. Look, you might have felt like I was making an outrageous claim with the title and the thumbnail, with some of you probably already typing clickbait merchant in the comments. But after seeing these numbers, guys, I'm actually starting to think I undersold it. Just 11 games into his life at the biggest club in the world, Bryan Mbeumo has already taken a step up from his amazing season at Brentford last year. His non-penalty goals have gone up by 18%, his non-penalty XG has gone up by 50%, and his non-penalty XG plus XAG has gone up by 52%. So he's not just some one-hit wonder that was playing well for a new contract, unlike some other players that we have experience with. He's a player that's entered his prime last season, and it looks like he's going to get better and better with every minute, every game, and every season from here on out. And you know what impresses me the most? None of this seems to bother him. The most flashy thing I've seen him do is the goal celebration dance with Ahmad, and when he was asked about it, he said they were just copying the Homer Simpson gif. Trust me guys, if I was putting up these kinds of numbers, you'd see me turn up to Carrington in a full tuxedo with sunglasses on, referring to myself as the Cameroonian king. And his improvements don't stop there. Even though he's taking 18% more shots per 90, he's putting 47% more of his shots on target. That shows you his commitment to doing the basics right every single time he's on the pitch. He's not just shooting from horrible angles or distances from game to game. His goals per shot is still at 0.19, so his effectiveness in front of goal has not reduced at all. In fact, Mbeumo is overperforming his XG by almost the same amount as he was last season with Brentford. So all the signs are telling me that he can recreate his 29 goal contributions this year for United. Based on the fact that he's overperforming his XG by 57% right now, if nothing else improves about how he or United play for the rest of the season, he is projected to finish with 17 goals in the league this season. And based on his current expected assist numbers and a reasonable 30% finishing over performance on his passes by the likes of Cunha, Šeško, Ahmad, and Bruno, he's projected to have 12 assists in the league. So across 38 games, he will most likely have another 29 goal contribution season, which is absolutely massive. And that, by the way, is assuming that nothing improves from here on. So even if he misses all 6 Premier League games due to AFCON, he should still have 15 goals and 10 assists, meaning he gets 25 goal contributions in 32 games. I don't think people appreciate how elite that is because of how humble, how quiet, and hardworking Mbeumo is every single time he steps onto the pitch. So to wrap up this video, let me show you one clip from the Brighton game that completely seals the deal about his all-round impact. Now, as Van Hecke actually plays it into Welbeck in this position, you can see that Mbeumo is basically in line with Euro and De Ligt here as part of a back three. And him being in this position is required because Shaw has stepped up to press Ruder in midfield over here, Dalot is on Kadiolu, and De Ligt is about to step into Welbeck here. So Euro has to be central center back and Mbeumo has to be our right center back. Now as Welbeck does really well to flick this past De Ligt over here, watch what Mbeumo does for the rest of this play, guys. He's immediately on his bike to cover Minte over here. And as you keep watching along, he's sprinting basically to get back. And as we skip forward a bit, look at how Mbeumo is basically focused on just looking where Welbeck is and what he's about to do. And right at this time, Minte is still behind the ball, right? So Mbeumo is aware of that threat. But as we keep moving forward, look at Mbeumo. He's still focused on Welbeck and Welbeck only, not really paying that much attention to Minte. And he's doing this so that he can stay behind Minte and make sure he's offside, but also be close enough that just in case Welbeck manages to get a yard ahead and cut this back to Minte, he can still sprint across in this direction, put a slide tackle in, and cut the cross off. And of course, Mbeumo manages to do just enough to make sure Minte is offside, and he even doesn't get a great shot off. Mbeumo was my man of the match that game because of this crazy defensive effort from him. Can you imagine Rashford or Garnacho or Antony or Sancho putting anywhere near the level of effort that Mbeumo just put in that clip? No, you can't. Because they didn't have to go from the second tier of French football to the second tier of English football and earn every penny of the £45,000 a week he was making at Brentford. They didn't have to put in one of the greatest underlying seasons of a right winger to come to United and make £150,000 a week. Even before Rashford had that great season under Ten Hag, he was making £226,000 per week. After producing that 17 goals and 6 assists in the league, we gave him a contract worth £340,000 per week. That goes to show you how bad things had gotten at our club and how we should be thanking our stars that Bryan Mbeumo is a Red Devil. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts about Bryan Mbeumo in the comments below. Do you agree that he is playing like Prime Mohamed Salah? And are you excited about the things he can do at this club? If you've made it this far, why not drop a like and subscribe to the channel? Over 10 hours of work has gone into making this video, and we're really trying to get to that 50K mark. And like I said earlier, we have launched a 2-tier channel membership for you guys to get exclusive perks, and in exchange, it helps me produce better and better content. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.